Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the What Do You Say Anime podcast nominate and vote on shows either we haven't seen or shows that hopefully lead to a great discussion. In today's episode, the average run-of-the-mill high schoolers and are definitely not the main characters of the What Do You Say Anime podcast will be reviewing the 2019 anime and its OVA counterpart, Oresuki, Are You the Only One Who Loves Me? Let's meet today's Ko-Shien hopefuls. First up, it all started last year at the final game of the regional baseball tournament, where I saw him from the east entrance. We got Jay. Jay, how's it going?
Honestly, you saw me crying and banging my head against the wall because this show, much like my high school career, started off with a lot of promise, a lot of highs, and then it ended up in a web of intercomplex drama that really kind of lost the plot, and nobody was the same afterwards, and I was permanently damaged from it.
That was deep.
Anyway.
Glad to have you. Next up, it all started last year at the final game of the regional baseball tournament, where I saw him from the west entrance. We got Kat. Kat, how's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm just out here smoking beans.
Glad to have you, my man. Next up, it all started last year at the final game of the regional baseball tournament, where I saw him from the north entrance. We got Trent. Trent, how's it going?
I'm doing good. They say the sequel, is a lot of times better than the first one. And so this is my second appearance here on the show. So I'm hoping it'll be better than the first time.
I hope so, too. First up, our first moderator of the night. It all started last year at the final game of the regional baseball tournament, where I saw him from the south entrance. We have Miles. Miles, how's it going?
I'm pretty sure this is a Moby song.
I don't know any Moby song, so I don't get that.
I actually know this one Moby song, and it's called like West Side or something. And
is that the? Yeah, sir. No, that's Beck. Just kidding.
No,
sorry,
yeah,
wrong white dude.
Yeah, no. I'll send it. I'll send it to you after. Right. No one got that reference. It's okay.
All right,
you guys are dating yourself here quite a little bit.
A little bit. And that voice you heard is Pat.
What's up, guys? I came in the north entrance, baby. But yeah, so we're reviewing Oresuki, Are You the Only One Who Loves Me? This aired in the fall 2019 season, done by Studio Connect, which I have never really heard of them before, but it looks like they've done, they did like Senryu Girl, they did
Slow Loop.
So, yes, bangers, and Strike the Blood, another banger, right? Yes, they've done a lot of not very great things, and then Oresuki and Senryu Girl, apparently, the two hits. So yeah, let's do our first impressions of the show. It's a little spoilery, I guess. Like I don't know, it's not like imperative, but it is. I think the first few episodes are a little different from the rest. So why don't we do our first impressions like we normally do and move on from there? Miles, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so this is Miles Week, and I think that even though I'm going to be harsh on this, it's a very good choice, Pat. I think that it definitely like has the elements, and I also think it makes me angry in like a very Miles way, right?
I was thinking that because I was like, that's not why I chose it, but in hindsight, that is maybe a reason why I knew no matter what, this would be a fun show to talk about for your week, because I knew you would enjoy it to some degree, especially the first few episodes, and I was glad to see that at least. But
so this show, especially the first few episodes, does a lot of things I really like. As Jay alluded to, I think it goes it just goes off the fucking rails. None of I'm going to say the back third of this show makes any sense, like at all. But it's still fun. There's a lot of good bits in it. The comedy's pretty good. The characters are enjoyable. Some of them are. But I mean, would I recommend this? I think so. I think there's some like iconic scenes and stuff in here, and I think there's enough fun bits and stuff. Like, I don't know, like it's a harem trash show, and as far as those go, it's that I've seen, it's pretty good. So especially if you're into that shit, watch this. This is, I don't know. Fuck it. Watch it. Do it.
Yeah. Do it. There you go. Yeah. There's only absolutes. We only deal in absolutes here. Like,
100%.
Like, what is it? The Jedi, right? Only deal in absolutes, something along those lines.
It's the opposite of that, but yes, a Sith.
Well,
only a Sith.
Which is an absolute.
Bad guys.
You know. Yeah. So The writer's really good for Star Wars prequels. Yeah. Kat, what about you? What do you think about Oresuki?
My first impressions of the show, specifically during the first episode, I hated the show. Like
Really?
the first half of the first half of the show, the first episode. I mean, I hated the show, and then I loved it. This is the first episode was I would classify it as something kind of like a Trojan horse, where you just feel like you're gonna hate it, and I'm glad that I stuck around for the next 15 minutes. So, but this show's kind of like Game of Thrones, where the first part of it is really, really good. And then the last half is kind of, it's not mediocre, it's a little above that. It's like, it goes into that very weird, like, rom-com, this is your standard rom-com situation with a slight twist, where I would recommend it.
Okay.
But definitely there's an asterisk there. If you don't like rom-com, you will probably not like the latter half of the show.
I think it's fair. I don't know, like the show is parodying a lot of like harem rom-com things, right? So I think that in order, part of your enjoyment of the show is going to be how well you know the tropes or things like, I don't know, just do you get the jokes? Just like with almost any comedy, right? Like, is it funny to you or not? So I think that's a fair caveat to have. Trent, what do you think? What were your first impressions?
Yeah, upon very first impressions, like those first 3 episodes, kind of on the same feelings that everyone else has. Those first 3 episodes in themselves felt like such a good contained story that I was like, "Ooh, this instantly hooked me." Admittedly, trashy harem rom-coms are either very hard hits with me and I love them to death and I'll ignore every flaw whatsoever, or I will just hate it altogether. Like, this is not for me. This is not what I'm into. This is not my jam. I do not give a shit about this high school shitty characters and romance and everything. So those first 3 episodes really grabbed me. And so I had hope. I was hooked. And over time, that hope kind of drifted off a little bit. But I would say I would recommend it if this is your thing. If it's not your thing, typically like myself, I'd probably say stay away from it. But I'm glad I gave it the shot.
All right, fair enough. Pete, what about you?
Very good advice, Trent. If you would like it, watch it.
If you, I was thinking that, but I didn't call him out on it.
The thing with this show, I think it's like both good and bad that the beginning episodes are its best episodes. So I think it does a really good job at hooking people to watching it. Kind of like what other people are saying. I think while it does parry tropes, it kind of also plays those tropes, which I didn't really find the most enjoyable. However, if we're speaking just in the beginning, I loved how they set up the situations that they're in. The running joke of like the bench and sitting down and having the same setup essentially like I did in the intro. I loved it. I was cracking up every single time. Even when they were like switching it, he's like, "Oh no, not again," and then it's like on him. It's like, "Oh no, you like me? What?" Like stuff like that where it's like it's silly. Maybe it's predictable and it's simple, but it got me to laugh. And I think that's like throughout the entire show, while things maybe didn't progress the way I wanted it to, the dialogue was great and I laughed the majority of the show. So I would recommend this if you have seen like a handful of rom-coms, because I think there's some stuff that you would miss if you haven't seen like the stuff that they're parodying or kind of poking at, and then come see this after you see like, like 10 rom-coms or something like that. But I think it's a solid show and I would recommend it to most people who are enjoying like rom-com style shows.
If you like it.
Yeah, if you like it. If you don't like it, then don't watch it.
Then don't watch it.
Yeah, very good, very profound. Jay, what is your opinion on this show? It sounded like you were also in the same boat so far as everyone else, but let's hear it.
I think that this is a show that really suffers from not knowing what it wants to do with itself. Like Pete mentioned, it kind of presents itself as a parody of rom-coms at the start, but then like after the first 3 episodes, it more or less just falls directly into the typical harem schlock. And I don't know, I wanted better than that, I guess, because the first 3 episodes are like really good. And then after that, it's basically just like, okay, I can go watch like any harem show that has decent comedy and get the same thing. And
Yeah,
I think that the expanding web of characters they add later on don't really add too much to the show. I think that this is a show that just kind of got to like into its own formula a bit and kept stacking characters on characters on characters that all do the exact same thing more or less, but with a slightly different personality. And many of the characters, like, they don't really do anything besides show up at the end, more or less. There are a couple of notable exceptions to this, like Asunaro and Tsubaki, but like a lot of the other ones, I don't see why I was supposed to care about them at all, apart from them getting like fan service shots and whatnot. So I think personally, like, I guess if you like rom-coms, I'd recommend this because it's just another rom-com. But like, if rom-coms aren't really your thing, or if you're not like someone who's just on a mission to watch literally every rom-com in the Mao database, I probably wouldn't recommend it. You can go find something better to watch.
Would you recommend checking out the first 3 episodes and then being like, show's done?
Yeah, actually, and the first 3 episodes in the beach episode, and I think you're good.
Okay. I really liked it was like a water park, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I have a very unique comparison, I think, to try to make to this. This is like
If Bunny Girl Senpai was good.
yeah, I'm not taking that bait tonight. No, I've already spent too long today arguing at work.
I thought I was going to be able to say that through like 3 episodes, and then I couldn't. It fell apart.
It did. It does. And like everyone else says, I think this show struggles really badly with pacing by the end of it. But I guess my profound or really like interesting take, I think, on this is it's very similar. It made me feel the same way as like Spy Family and Zombieland Saga did at first, where the setup of the story happens, right? And it's all spelled out for you. And you sit there and go, oh, this is so clever. The dialogue is great. The show should write itself. It's the same thing with like Kaguya as well, right? Where the show, the scenarios that they end up in, they write themselves and they do what you expect them to do and they're still funny. The thing is like Spy Family, Kaguya, and the others continue to do that and continue to stay like peak or in my opinion peak. This show, I agree with everyone else so far. Like the first 3 episodes are unfortunately not a reflection of the rest of the show. I do find the ending funnier than I think a couple of the other naysayers in the group did. But I also can understand where they're coming from, where that second half of the first season really, or the season I should say, really just drags and lingers. So I would recommend this to people that, similar like what other people have said, like rom-coms. I would say I'm curious though if I would still recommend it after 3 months from now when 100 Girlfriends is done airing. So we know, because like surely one of those shows is going to be better than the other, and I wonder which one it is going to be. Like we really can't say yet with 100 Girlfriends only having, was it 2 episodes out now? But the author seems pretty dedicated to the bit. So from what I've read, so maybe it will become just this show but better. And 3 months from now, we'll all be saying, why would we even ever recommend this show in the first place?
Oresuki walked so 100 Girlfriends could run.
There you go. It's strikingly similar, the show. But it's cool because like the premise is slightly different, I guess. And I don't know, so far it seemed like to me at least 100 Girlfriends was slightly less on the nose, or what would you say, it's less or more on the nose parody than like this show was?
It's too early to tell for me for the anime.
Yeah,
but
I guess so.
I think the problem with this show is that, and this is something that I get from Konosuba sometimes, and I like Konosuba so much more than I like the show. But sometimes I think, like, when you're parodying something, it's a bit like if you stare into the abyss too long, like, be careful that you don't, like, become diva or whatever. If you parody something, it's hard sometimes to not just become that thing. You know, you're making fun of things, but you like that thing, and you're sort of, like, poking fun at it, but in, like, a fun way, you know, not, like, in, like, a critical way. But then all of a sudden you actually are just a harem show, right? Like all of a sudden you are just an isekai. Like, I think that's what happens with this show. I don't know what people's.
I kind of agree with you on that point. I think that maybe the issue is that was this show really meant to be a parody of harems is the thing? Or is that us attributing it to the first 3 episodes that are vastly different from the rest of it? Like, does a show, I guess that it kind of opens up a discussion of how much of a show needs to be like front loaded to like tell you what it is about.
Yeah.
Like, when can a show really come into its own? Does it have to be the first 3 episodes? Because I feel like if you use this show as a measure, like, the first 3 episodes are the peak, in my opinion, but it's not really showing you what the show is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think that this is a great discussion point for us to start with. So why don't we just say going forward, spoilers, that's our first impressions, yada, yada, all the usual BS I say here. And Jay, I think your point's very valid. I guess that's where I think the fact that the ending, the way it ends, is entirely parodying like how bad harem endings usually are, or how controversial harems can be, where they then just end up as a single, and it just ends up being like the obvious answer from all along, right? Like, I don't know, Pete, you had something to bring up, right?
Yeah, because I think it's how it's set up in the beginning that's what we're led to believe what's going to happen. And I think some of the stuff that they did in the show could have been period or whatever. So like, for example, like the skirt shots, I think they could have done something like that where if you want to get a skirt shot into the show, do that, but then like have the joke be like, she's wearing like another skirt or something like that. Like something along like those lines where like you could still do like the fan servicey things that pay the anime tax in this style of show, but still make it fun. And I think that's where it kind of lost some points with me. Just like kind of like what they did in the story.
In the last episode, there's like the tense scene where they're kind of, Joro's confessing his love to one person, or so we're led to believe. And there's like a big like heartbeat scene, and it shows like most of the girl's chest, but then there's one shot where they just show an upskirt of a girl in her panties with the heartbeat, and it's like, what is that? Like, why? Why did we need to do that necessarily? I just don't. This is becoming old man yelling at fan service for me for a second. I'm sorry, but it felt like at the beginning it felt like a parody with like Himawari running into him and like showing like her booba and panties and all that. But then later on, it's just like, no, we're gonna actually introduce some of these girls by showing you their chest first, straight up, or their ass, or a panty shot. And we're going to have like multiple things where the camera is just going to cut to ass or titties or panties.
Yeah, okay, so they say in music, right? You have your entire life to write your first album and about a year to write your second. And I kind of feel like, I don't know how this is broken up, right? But this dude, whoever wrote this, was like, he had his bangers, right? He releases his first album and there's like the bench thing. There's the switch up on like the normal introduction to the harem girls, right? Where they do like the first half and the second half after he learns that they aren't into him and he's like salty about it and everything. He has those things. And I think it seems like a parody because it's supposed to, I don't necessarily know if parody is the right word, but he's definitely playing with these tropes, right? And he's trying to switch things up. But then he's completely out of ideas. That's my take, Jay. And he's like, okay, so like we had the funny panty shot because the Genki girl is like you're expecting that, so it's setting you up to think this thing is going to happen, and then I switch it on you, like and now he's upset, but then he doesn't know what to do, and so he's like, I don't know. Wouldn't it be funny if we just switch to just like literally like it's just it's a different kind of way of playing with tropes than previous, and it's a little. I mean, not to discredit kinds of writing, but it's like dumber. It's not as smart. It's just like there are panty shots, so let's make a really obvious panty shot. And sometimes I think that's fun, right? Like in Rosario Vampire Season 1, when you have these angles where you have like, it's actually physically impossible to see all these girls' panties, but they make it work. Like, I think that is funny. But like, Not in this case, I guess. Anyone else have takes on just like what they think sort of switches from like the beginning episodes into these later episodes? I also think that the plot gets insane, but we can talk about that later. Like, it's not grokkable. It's not easy to understand what's happening.
It feels like the first 3 episodes are going very close to how the light novel or whatever it's based off of is meant to be. It feels like it's very well paced in the first 3 episodes, and it kind of felt like this is very true to whatever they were using, and it felt like they had a lot of thought and effort put into it, which is why I think it's very close to the source material. And then after that, it feels like the pacing goes off a little bit, and it feels like they were trying to get so many different things and like add in a bunch of different context that wasn't really there because they only had like essentially 15 episodes for it, and it feels kind of it takes away from the show, and I kind of hated I kind of hated the way that it worked like that, because I wish they would have taken their time. It felt like watching The God of High School again, I guess, where it was like, oh, first few episodes really, really good, and then it just went off the deep end, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's very, in those first few episodes, and I mean throughout the series, it's very self-aware, as we're talking about it ending up just doing these tropes that it's supposed to be parodying. Is this series, is this the harem rom-com anime but The Office? But where it's super self-aware, they have the cut-in shots staring at the camera, and the first X amount of seasons, however, is good. Then Michael Scott leaves, and then it all just falls off the rails and loses its sense of direction. And
that's like The Office was good for like 100 episodes or something. You know what I mean? The show was good for 3 episodes. I think that the show might have accidentally been The Office. Like, I think nothing new ever happens is part of it, because like they continue the bench joke and some of the other jokes, and they're funny when they happen in later episodes. But every new element that gets added is most of the time, there are some new jokes that get added that I think are funny, but for most part, these new elements that get added are just, they're not funny, they're not inventive, they're just sort of standard. All the, like, oh, this was unique because the girls didn't like him, they liked his popular best friend. All the girls like him now. Like, it just stops doing any of the things that made it different or interesting and just did the formula. It's like Shield Hero, right? Like, oh, I'm weak. I'm not the strongest hero. Oh, I got the super rage power. Now I'm the strongest hero. It's a surprise. Like,
But slaves.
Yes, also slavery.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And so it's an isekai. What do you expect? But like, I guess like, and Pete, you made this point in our Discord where we coordinate things. It's important to note that there are good things in this show, right? Like, a lot of these bits are funny. There are some kind of fun, like, Death Note-esque scenes. Like, I think at the beginning, and maybe they start off too crazy, and that's what sort of ends with, like, the results being just, like, completely impossible to grasp things. But, like, some of the mind games and, like, scenarios where someone's like, oh, I was secretly watching you in the library, and you were here and stuff are kind of fun, in my opinion. Pete, you had some examples. You want to go?
Yeah, because I do want to talk about like the positives. Because I think we are
sure.
split, but I think there's some good parts about the show. My favorite scene of the entire show is when we get. Nah, that's my second favorite. When we get really introduced to Tom Popo for the first time, and she drags Joru into the science lab, and then they have this discussion. There's 2 scenes that stick out to me particularly. One, Joru calls back like how this is happening in episode like 7 when it should have been happening in episode 4. I thought that was really funny. He's like, this isn't right. This the order of this is all wrong. And then the reporter girl having like this view of what's happening, and she's like, how did you get here? And she's like, oh, I saw Joru suspiciously get pulled into the science room, so I climbed through that window. And stuff like that to me is just like, I don't know. It's just like, for as many things I have wrong with like the plot and where it goes from episode 1 to episode 15, I think like the dialogue and the scenarios that they got themselves into the majority of the time were fun, lighthearted. I could laugh along with it. There were some moments where I just absolutely gut laughed to what was happening, and it kind of distracted me from what was the main purpose of the story to just having like a really fun time with the characters. And I gotta give that props to that. My smooth brain being distracted by really fun dialogue.
Yeah. For me, one of the positives of this show is just being very loose with a lot of their gags and being very visual with them. So one of my favorite ongoing gags, other than the bench scene, which was a treat every time I got to saw it, I got to see it. God damn, I'm being country. My favorite one was like whenever Joru would end up getting put into a situation where he's talking to a random chick, specifically a new one, and he just starts reacting to what they're saying. Is it's very it's very fun because like I see like some of the different animation styles that they put into his face. It takes from another show. That, and I also like that this isn't really much of like a positive to a lot of people, but for me, like I like that it stayed very first person instead of like adding extra like, we're gonna follow this person for a little bit, we're gonna follow that person for a little bit. We learned a lot about the world through Joru's eyes, and he reacted to them accordingly, rather than us as the watcher, like figuring out something that the main person doesn't figure out, and the
We have a
rest of them.
limited perspective as opposed to an omniscient one.
Exactly. It's very refreshing because in a lot of these shows, you see they cut away from the main character for a little bit, and it's like, oh, we surprised you, and I'm trying to win the battle or something. It felt like I could see where they would do that in situations where it would be where it was a little bit more dramatic.
Yeah, I kind of you're mentioning how they talk about, or they infer to other shows and in switching up their art styles. I thought that was really cool. Like there's just tons of little references littered in. There's probably like a reference each episode, like whether it's the Sailor Moon reference with Peen Popo, and there was like a kaiji. Yeah, there's a kaiji reference, and there's a bunch of little things thrown out there, and I thought that was really cool. But that's obviously like, oh, I like references. References are cool. But that was kind of neat. But kind of going back to what Pete was saying about how the characters, how the journalist girl was like, oh, I saw you get pulled into the science room. That was one thing I give the cast a credit for. Is that everyone is not just stupid and dense and thick-skulled. Like they are in the very beginning to play up that, oh, this is a romantic or a rom-com. But everyone is very self-aware and actually is relatively smart, I feel. Everyone kind of picks up on other people's cues, whereas, Pansy is feeling very uncomfortable, obviously, or this person, I can tell that this person loves another. And I thought that was really refreshing, not just have a whole cast of just people who don't understand their friends. And it really, I think it lended to how close and how strong the bond ended up becoming amongst the group, despite the fact that they might have their issues with love triangles or love polygons or whoever. And I thought that was really something I could give the cast credit for.
I absolutely agree with that until I don't. So we'll talk about that we'll talk about that later.
Except when they're like love blinded. Like aside from that, yeah.
Okay, so Jay, you wanted to talk about Sun-chan, who we've not talked about yet. It is our main character's best friend / the affection interest for a lot of the girls initially. He has a bit of a villain arc at the beginning, and you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the series, Sunshine has a bit of a villain arc because basically all the girls are in love with him, and he realizes this and essentially wants to use them to get closer to Pansy, who he doesn't actually care about, and basically threatens to assault more or less at one point in the library. And
Yep.
everybody forgets about that and just acts like it never fucking happened.
It's the implication. It was very.
That's the thing about it. What you were talking about reminded me of it, because it feels like when Trent was saying that the bonds for the characters felt very smart and that they were like knowledgeable about what other people wanted, and that, you know, like it felt realistic. Like that to me was just such a discordant moment with that like I agree to an extent on like most of it, but like that is just so out there to me that it really kind of undermines the whole situation, in my opinion.
I see that. It's a thing that I choose to ignore because I just write it off as bad writing, right?
It's terrible writing.
Yeah. So like, you know how like, you might know this. At the beginning of the quintessential quintuplets, Nino like literally drugs the protagonist, and like that's a felony. And so I just ignore that scene and let everything else continue because that was bad writing. And
Also,
it wasn't as funny as the author thought.
Maybe the PTA had a good idea to close the library if students are threatening to assault other students in the library and planning harems and love games and all that sort of shit. Maybe I'm on the PTA side on this one, actually.
Well, they got a bunch of students from other schools to come to the library.
That's
so
also...
Yeah, that was weird.
The show, again, loses all semblance of reality at some point.
Yeah, but like to stay on,
that was funny. I thought it was funny.
To stay on the Sunshine villain arc thing, I don't understand how they go back to just like accepting that he, like, even ignoring that part as like an outlier of bad writing. How do you go back after like him just being a fucking supervillain, literally having a maniacal laugh about it in front of two of the people? I don't understand how he gets to just be is it because he's good at baseball?
Yeah, there you go. I was like, there's two answers. He's hot and he's the ace of the baseball team.
All that matters.
Yep.
He can get away with anything.
I will say for a protagonist, he has like a similar issue. So there's probably some like empathy there, right? For someone who feels like they can't be themselves, like he can't.
It's mostly the women that I think should not fuck with Sunshine at all.
I will say they all immediately stop being interested in him.
That's at least, yeah. I mean, that's the bare minimum, I guess. So I'll give them that.
Yeah, I mean, they still hang around him, but he also improves a lot. He has like a much more interesting, in my opinion, that I wish was followed up on, like semi-villain arc later on when he asks Poppy out and it's like, hey, like if I do it, he did it to like spur his friend on, to like give him a deadline, to like get his ass in gear or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't it have been way fucking cooler if she just dated him and not our psychopath main character?
So he does get a girlfriend in the light novels named
He does?
named Anemone.
Anemone.
That's a type of plant as well, not just like the urchin or whatever.
Okay.
But I don't know, like it's conflicting for me because I think in the second half of the series, Sunshine hard carries it, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
he's excellent in the second half of the series, but it's hard to counterbalance that with him literally threatening to assault the main heroine.
Yeah, I mean, one, I agree, and like, because like literally the way I deal with that is choosing to not believe it. Like,
oh no, I know you do that in media. We've done this before.
Yes, we've talked about this. There's an entire sequel to one of our favorite things that I choose to not believe. I mean, that's how I do it, right? Like, if something is clearly like it wasn't intended to alienate him from the audience, like clearly, right? Like that was not the point of that scene. So I view it as bad writing and forgive the character, but not the author, if that makes sense.
I think that's understandable, honestly.
I think we talked about something like this in like Dirty Pair, where like if it happens like once, I can like ignore it as long as it doesn't happen again. And that's kind of like how I felt with Sunshine, where like that scene is weird. Like I get like having like trying to like make him evil in the situation, but then they had
It
to
was
like
just a
make that
bridge too far.
joke.
A
Yeah.
bridge too far.
Yeah, exactly.
period.
Like you don't have to. I don't know. Like
He accidentally shot the dog instead of kicking the dog.
yeah,
right.
yeah, something like that. But then like it doesn't happen really again. So
Yeah,
like
no.
I'm with Miles, where like I kind of just like ignore it as long as it doesn't happen again, type of thing.
Yeah,
It's like an
I think
anime thing. It's weird.
that's kind of like the high. Like, I didn't care much for the baseball aspect of the OVA, but I really enjoyed actually getting some insight into Sun-chan's like inner monologue and psychology. I think that was like probably the best aspect of the OVA in my opinion.
Agreed.
I wish we would have gotten more of that because it kind of presents Sun-chan as a deuteragonist for a while, but like we don't really get much of him like actually acting as like a secondary protag.
Does anyone think? Okay, in my head, like while I was watching the OVA, there were two anime going on. There was a sports anime about these two guys who were enemies who like learned various lessons, right? And like there wasn't any preamble for that catcher being a character, but like there is an anime out there where he is an interesting character. It's not this one, but that anime exists. And then there, whatever the fuck was happening with there was the other part of the OVA.
I hated the Barrett game.
Words can't express how much
Yeah.
I hate the Barrett game. Like I think it is. I don't want to get to it now because I think I need to end on it because I'll never get off of it. Right. So let's stick with the baseball game for now. Oh God, it's someone else talk because it's actually hard for me not to just dive into it.
I enjoyed
Can't
that
help myself.
Sunshine really liked Hideo Nomo. That was cool. And it was cool seeing that his pitching style is kind of reminiscent of Hideo Nomo. If you go
Yes.
back and watch any like late 90s Dodgers
Hog-
baseball,
hog
you see
shoe,
him
me, me,
do
me,
the
me.
full twist and then rear back and throw. I thought that was kind of neat, but
That
As
that
far
was
as-
cool. I did catch that.
That's a cool attention to detail, yeah.
yeah, and I think unless you know baseball or follow Japanese pitchers or things like that, you probably wouldn't get that. But that was the one thing I was like, as I was watching him pitch, I was like, wait a minute, that's kind of cool. That looks familiar. But
There was
that's really about it. That
Well, there was a lot of like there is a lot of love. I feel like one like the references, the baseball things like you were talking about, like the way the characters interact when they're both on screen with like facial expressions and people reacting to each other. Like there's so much attention to detail in the show that's so interesting and good. But I think the plot is just awful, and that I mean it's hard to come back from that, right? Like that's a hard thing to come back from.
I also think that you can tell that the voice cast was having a lot of fun with this, specifically the main VA, who is the voice actor for Deku in My Hero Academia. Like, it just goes to show that, dang, he actually is a really good voice actor whenever the like voice direction is interesting and allows him to take it very unique places. All of the inner monologue that Joro had, like where he's like plotting and scheming to himself, was hilarious. Like, I was watching this with my partner, and some of the highlights of it are honestly going, oh, this guy's a giant piece of shit, whatever he's thinking to himself. Like, whenever he acts normally, and then, like, on the inside, he's actually, like, scheming to get, like, when he has, like, the harem turn and everything, where he decides he wants to do that. Like, I thought that was just really fun, and, like, more or less just all of the voice acting, and even a lot of the, like, OST, in my opinion, was very well put together. I think the sound of the show is one of the highlights for me personally.
I would agree. The voice acting was so good. Like their expressions of shock and stuff like that were really, really fun.
Oh
and
my god!
Cosmo going into old school samurai mode was always a blast.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
I
was
love
was
Cosmo.
great.
Cosmo's VA was fantastic.
Shout out to
She
Rainbow Shogun.
She felt like an Ed and Eddie character to me. I don't know how to describe it. That's just what it reminded me of when she would go samurai mode.
she is such a good example of like the things that this show had going for it, right? She's the cool, collected, like student council president, right? Like she like fills that archetype, but then she also has this like really fun, like awkward side to her that I don't feel like I've like in
She's
the
second best girl for real.
in the archetypical harem, right? She doesn't have that quirk. She isn't nervous around the guy she likes. She doesn't start saying domo at the end of everyone's name. Like, and so like there's so much of that, I think, and I'm just sort of, it's sad that the show didn't play with things like that more and instead just it became a harem. Or didn't.
Well, speaking of harems, why don't we talk about the most important topic in a show that some people used to talk about a lot more before we started watching like shows that just weren't like this. Let's talk about Best Girl. And yeah, okay, meme answers aside of Sun-chan, who is your best girl, Miles?
Okay, so I'm going to go for an answer. There's a lot of girls have a lot of great moments. Everyone in the show, I think, has like a light Yagami plotting moment where they're either foiling or coming up with a devious plan, and I like all of that. I'm going to pick the one girl who doesn't. So the popular girl, Asaka Mayama, she has like red hair and like later changes it. This was like a second half bit that I really liked, which was her. And they don't ever really sort of explain why she likes the main character, ever, but she does for some reason. And I believe the official explanation is he's been less creepy lately, which really isn't a good reason to be romantically interested in someone, but it's a harem, so I understand that these things will happen. But the bit with her friends just like cheering her on when she's going to like try to talk to him and like she can't, and they're like, hey, but you try to, and like that's I loved that. So like that whole energy she had, I thought was very charming and relatable. And so for that reason, I will call her best girl.
Get you some friends that'll support you like they did. That's
Yes,
what you need.
absolutely.
Everyone needs that.
Absolutely.
For real. Kat, what about you? Who's your
So-
best girl?
I thought no one was going to choose her until Miles did.
Oh, okay.
But mine is for a different reason. I actually really liked her character design. Because like the way that she changes, especially when the episode that she changes from having like the pink hair and basically being the kind of the generic mean chick to going back to black hair and being there. I really like the way that they kept her around and how her character design never really skimped out. Which, I mean, the other character design fairly good, but it also has to deal with her having red hair at the beginning. So that's just minor things. But, not feeding into my fetishes or anything.
Okay. I didn't know how to respond to that.
Keep that
Sorry.
silence in.
Yeah,
Okay.
really.
Do not edit
Please
the
do.
silence.
Please do not. I don't know what to say to this. All right, Trent, what are your fetishes? And maybe throw in one.
All right. So we're gonna take this a different angle now.
Yeah.
So as far as best girl, well, kind of actually. I guess I'll kind of go to that, but I'm torn between Cosmos and Pansy. The first 3 episodes showed such a calculated, almost like sadistic to a point, side
Pansy, right?
of Pansy, yes,
And it was
that
awesome.
I loved.
It was so
I was like,
good.
oh, okay, this is where we're going with this.
Those are
It bummed
masters.
me out to kind of see that side of her fizzle out throughout the rest of the series. But if you take episode 1 through 3 Pansy, I would say that's my choice right there. Cosmos is a very, very close second. As Miles was mentioning, she's very calm, cool, collected until she has the moment like at the beach where she just totally crumbles at the thought of Jono and her being together. I thought that was a really funny bit. But I would, yeah, if you give me episode 1 through 3 Pansy, I need that slightly sadistic angle. I need that in my life.
Completely. So there's your kink. All right, cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Pete, what about you? Well, we know the answer to this, but yeah.
Do we?
Glasses.
I don't think we do.
Glasses.
It's not. No,
Yeah.
pansy is not my favorite.
Oh, I was saying what your fetish
Oh,
was.
that for sure it's glasses.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Mine's also a tie between Tsubaki and Asuka. I did like not a lot of times in anime where people like change for the person that they like. It reminds me of like high school when like you find out like the girl that you like likes preppy dudes, then you buy Abercrombie or something like that. Like she finds out that she like Joro likes straight haired, black haired girls, and so she does that. And it's like, you know, that's something a high school girl would do. I thought that was good, but I did think like how structured Tsubaki was throughout the entire show was just like a nice pillar of support. But if I had to pick one, it's Asuka because she's a tsundere, and I'm a simp for tsundere.
She's a hilarious tsundere.
She's
Like
really
that was
good.
something that was just like
She's
played
good.
really straight. I thought that was like a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
It was very winky and naughty.
Fair enough. Wow. So 3.
Yes.
Like philosophical.
3 for a character that affects the plot in absolutely no way.
Zero way.
Exactly.
Is,
Contributes nothing.
literally contributes nothing. Like, is I've honestly before were we talking about this show like 4 days ago when I was like, oh, is that the one with the pink hair or the red hair? And then you were like, no, it's the red haired chick. And then 2 minutes later, oh wait, no, she goes pink at some point too. At the end of the show. Oh man. All right, Jay, who's your best girl?
It's obviously Tsubaki. She's got a job. She's got a good work ethic. She can cook well. She's the one who's not a fucking psychopath. Shout out in my opinion, worst girl is obviously Himawari, but Pansy gets a close second for treating Hose like he's a fucking serial killer, even though she treats Sunchan like a normal human being. And Hose's whole issue, by the way, is that even though he's a really nice guy, sometimes he doesn't consider what others want. Cool, I guess.
That's a villain arc.
Okay,
right there.
Sounds like a serial killer to me. I don't know.
Pat, who's your favorite character? I need to talk about the end. It's bursting out of me.
Okay. It's pretty easy for me. Out of the blue-haired chick, Kina. I liked her. Her accent was cute and she's funny. And I like that she's like trying to cheat, but not necessarily super sadistically, I would say. Like more in like I want to win, so I'm doing anything possible.
She published an article calling, like, she Me Too'd him. Like
Fake news.
but like in a fake article. I'm like, one, I like it. 2,
Yeah, right,
I
like-
wouldn't necessarily say that it's not super sadistic. That's like a psychotic thing to do.
Yeah.
Different strokes for different folks, as we're learning in this episode so far, right? But sorry, yeah, no, I don't know. I like, again, they all do stupid things, but I liked her. I guess I liked how manipulative she was, but not in like to me, as weird of a way. Although, yeah, you're right. That's probably the worst thing that out of all of them that they did to each other, right? I guess. I don't know.
Maybe the threatening to assault thing.
Yeah.
But it's close. They're different.
She is agenda over facts.
She's blue haired
Yeah.
though, so she's pretty hot.
It was
she
a
looked
pretty smart plan on her part, and it
It
worked.
was. She
Yeah.
looked really good in a witch hat too. So there you go. No, okay, that joke didn't land, unfortunately.
No, it did.
Okay, I thought it was kind of funny, but yeah, fair enough. All right, yeah, let's
Bailed out of that fact.
let's do this ending thing. Miles, have your bunny girl moment. Go ahead.
This isn't a bunny girl. Okay, honestly, the fucking writing at the end of the Bunny Girl Senpai movie makes this fucking this makes that look like goddamn Shakespeare or fucking whatever, like some fucking classical piece of art. This is the most insane thing I've ever seen. Everyone acknowledges who likes who, and then they're like, let's play a game about it. And like, but everyone knows, right? And like, cause like, as Trent was saying, they're all like emotionally intelligent. And like, the other girls are like, oh, we're going to vote against Poppy because we know that Poppy will say yes if our main character confesses to her. So in order to like prevent, why did this happen? Why didn't they just talk? Why weren't feelings ever discussed? Why? I legitimately don't understand why this happened. Like, how did this? And like, they make rules after 3 of them already cast their votes, and then the guy randomly adds votes, and like and they're like trying to just tell the girl you like her. Just do that. Just, hey, Poppy, I like you. You want to go out sometime? Yeah, you do. Oh, wow, I could have only ever guessed that by the 47 times you told me that you were in love with me. Or don't do that if you don't like her. Just, why play this game? I don't understand why this happened. I don't understand why everyone cared so much. Like, what happened if like everyone gave Hose the barrette and then Poppy gave the other guy the barrette? What do? You go, oh, well, too bad, Poppy, I won? And then like he like adds the rule that's like, oh, if whoever wins could never talk to the friends. Like, why would you accept that? Just say no. Just say no.
Because he knew he was going to win.
What a dumb rule.
Agreed.
The whole thing was
that's my issue. There's literally like whoever, I'm not going to go super in detail, but like the ending of the quintessential quintuplets has a semi-similar scenario that this makes look like the world's most realistic scenario. Which is a thing I never thought I would say in my entire life. I can't, and then also they all just aren't watching Sun-chan's game. I would have fucking given all the girls' barrettes to Hose. Fuck you, you piece of shit friends. He even thinks that to himself. He's like, oh, no one's watching me and me play my game, and like the biggest moment, I'm like trying to overcome.
It's literally not his biggest moment though, because if they win this, they're going to the fucking countrywide championship.
Yeah, but like as of yet, right? Like he's trying to overcome.
That's probably why he got over it though, because he knows they're gonna go watch him in the Koshiin or
he hadn't won. He hadn't won yet.
Yeah, but come on. They're genre savvy. They know what's gonna happen.
Okay, fair enough. It's like I don't know. I would be mad if my best friend was busy playing some stupid barrette game because he's too much of a little freaking coward to just ask the girl he likes out, and he needs to have some like weird sort of vote where people that know what, like, they don't even know who these people are. Why are they voting? I don't understand. Like, I genuinely don't understand why or how this happened, or why anyone respected the results of it, or how we got here. I don't get it. Is there a reason? Because like Poppy was like, oh, Hose likes me. Like, she's so afraid of him.
You mean Pansy?
Pansy.
Okay.
Yes.
Just whatever. Thinking about League of Legends.
Yeah, sorry. They're flowers.
The Yordle chick from League of Legends?
Yeah. She changes her entire personality because she's so afraid of rejecting a guy. Right? That's what happens.
Yep.
That's insane. That's an insane thing to do. Just
wait till I tell you the light novel ending, because she's even more insane.
Okay. Oh, okay. Nice.
Hit us with the light novel ending.
Here we go. And do you remember in like the first episode where we see the baseball game and we see the pretty girl and that? Yeah. Who is that girl?
Per this, it's Pansy.
That is not Pansy.
Oh my fucking god!
That is a girl named Viola. Viola is actually the girl who loves Joro, but she's in the hospital. So, you know who looks a lot like Viola? For some reason, Pansy. Pansy looks exactly like Viola. Pansy and Viola are friends. Pansy is a step-in for Viola to build a relationship for Joro, so once Viola gets out of the hospital, they can be together. But then Pansy and Joro actually develop relationships or feelings for each other, and they become a couple at the end of the light novel. So what are your thoughts on that?
Fucking stroke.
Yeah,
that's my thought.
I'm sorry, I think that's hilarious. Actually,
yeah.
Like that's really funny.
Who is Hose in love with in this?
Hose is in love with Pansy.
Okay. So, but how do they know? Okay. Sorry.
So Pansy and Viola aren't twins, but essentially in this universe, they look like identical twins.
But so my question is, how does Pansy know, or Viola know, or they just talk to Joro, right?
Yeah.
Viola talked to Joro at the baseball game.
There's 17 volumes of this, so I don't know the exact extent of it, but that is the reasoning why Pansy is so going after Joro is because she's such good friends with Viola, and Viola is in love with Joro.
I honestly, if you had said, Miles, you can bet all of the money you have, all of your money, do you think that the light novel has a better ending than the OVA? And I would have said yes. I would have said 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't know about the ending, I guess, but the fact that plot twist doesn't exist in this is praise be. What that is. I mean,
yeah,
truly.
My chair is over there because of this bullshit.
Yeah, why would anyone do that? Why would you write that? So, like, not from like a character point of view, like from like a human point of, someone wrote down that plot. They sat down and they wrote
Viola does so she's the girl that has her face all covered up in the OVA then.
Yeah, when she's talking with Sun-chan in middle school, that's actually Viola and not Pansy.
I gotta go. All right, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go tell my partner this, and
please let us know what she. Okay. Holy shit.
Yeah, so that's a lot to take in, and I think that's the reason why they made an anime only ending.
I mean, they for sure butchered the anime only ending, but also I think it's better. I mean, the actual ending, like, I actually think it's hilarious that he goes for the harem route. Like, that part, I think, is very funny. Yeah. They also walk it back a little bit, and, like, him and Pansy kind of get together at the end.
Yeah, it's hinted when he says, like, the I love the moon looks nice or whatever, and that's sort of like, I love
that's
you
how
too,
Japanese people say I love you, because they're too shy to directly say I love you. But, yeah, so, like, they clearly like each other or whatever, but it's still funny that he went for the harem ending. But when you guys were watching this, I need to know, when this Barrette game was happening, how did you stay invested in any way? Because why didn't they just talk to each other?
So where I was while I was watching this, I was at work. Okay. So, and the person that helps me, the person that we share work together with is not there. So this was my escapism. That was the main reason why I stayed invested. But you know what? I'm glad I didn't read the light novel. I would have lost my fucking mind.
Yeah, no, I feel exactly the same way you do, Miles, because it's like all this whole big game is going on where you're handing out, see whoever can get the most votes and the most barrettes and everything. But at the end of the day,
who does Poppy
you're doing all of this
or Pansy?
Exactly. It's all for a show. But all that matters is just, what does Pansy think? What does Pansy want? What does she want to do? Like, yeah, she's maybe scared to reject this guy, but instead of making this giant spectacle about it, try to encourage Pansy to, hey, stand up for yourself. Stick to your true feelings. Be true to yourself. And it could have just been finished. It could have been an uplifting story about Pansy usually being the one that is in charge of moving the cogs. And it could have been, instead of this time, everyone else is trying to put these things in actions to uplift her and make her feel stronger about herself and her emotions, and coming to terms with being able to finally reject Hose once and for all. But it didn't do that. It just made this big spectacle. Like, who cares what Pansy thinks? Well, she'll have to live with the results of this game no matter what. And that
Simone
made it hard
for
me to kind of
Night
care.
Shyamalan twist, by the
way. But yeah, like, as I was putting it on, I just finished it not too long ago. I was like, okay, I kind of see what's happening. So I'm just going to start cleaning up around here. And it's like, oh, a new twist just happened. Oh, a new twist just happened. And I was like, okay, this is where it's going.
I liked it. I think that based off of you literally just describing it to me right now, I think the fact that it does such a stupid thing, like a twist like that, again, I think is just further proof of it leaning into like the shittiness of it, right? Like no, like I don't know.
You
It's
can't
so-
give it. You can't
yeah.
give anything free reign to have bad writing just because it pretended to be a parody for like 1/4 of the, actually like 1/5 of the watch time.
I thought it was I think we are underselling how many jokes it made about itself or the media as well. Like beyond the first 3 episodes for sure were like
Rom-coms be doing that though.
My problem isn't that it's stupid. There's ways you can set up funny, stupid things without the way around that situation being a 5-word conversation.
and also yeah, well like retconning it feels like, right? Like I get that, but isn't I feel like that's what the bit they were going for. So yeah, you think it sucks. I just think that I thought it was kind of funny, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, maybe I don't. It's just like the stakes were never real. Not because they didn't matter. They don't matter. Like it was annoying to me that like I don't think the show has like an apex romantic moment between Pansy and Joro, right? I don't ever think there's like a moment where like their chemistry really clicks. There isn't like a whammy moment. There isn't like a kiss scene. There isn't any of that. Joro never really deals with his like viewing of her as 2 different women. I guess because she actually is 2 different women and the whatever. But like, like there's the beautiful one, and then there's like the one he like finds unattractive and stuff, and like he never really sort of like reconciles that that's the same woman. I don't know. I just feel like this ending was like, you're right that it's stupid and silly, but it like doesn't give us any sort of closure. Like it doesn't wrap anything up. Like our main heroine has no part to do with it. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't affect the outcome at all. She just sits there. I don't know. I think it's a really bad ending. I do think the harem bit is funny though.
yeah. All right. Well, why don't we do our closing thoughts and give our final scores as well? Miles, continue talking, please.
I will. Yeah, so I mean, the show is definitely funny. It's definitely flawed, and I think there's just like writing issues, right? Like I just think there's like a lot of writing issues towards the end. However, I enjoyed my time with the show. So I think it's like also a good Miles show. It does like the meta humor, the absurdness and stuff that I like. It also like, again, as we were talking about, like makes me angry in like a very Miles way, where I'm just like very annoyed that like that plot line like exists, right? Like I think it's just like, I thought it was fun. It was fun to be angry at. Like I wasn't actually mad. It was fun to like dissect the show and think like of how silly it was. It had a lot of good bits and humor and all of that. I'm gonna give it a 7, and I think it's like ranging from like an 8 to a 6 depending on where you are in the show. But I'll just average it out and say 7.
Thank you, Miles. What about you, Kat? What are your final thoughts and your final score?
My final thoughts are that, okay, so getting over the shock of what the ending of the light novel was, I think this show is a really fun show. I think it's a show that it's not necessarily critically great or anything, but it's something that you can really enjoy. And for me especially, like this is one of those shows that like the main character is a scumbag and it's fun. And of course, like it does kind of die down towards the end, which is a little sad, especially during the OVA. But I think that it's enjoyable, and I think that's the summary of my review of it. It's enjoyable, and the thing is that the first part of the show is really really good, and it does coast around like it did. Like I think the first 3 episodes, like if that was the show in and of itself, it would have been like a 9. But the rest of the show kind of coasts down to like a 6 to 7, middling around that range. And the ending was something. So altogether, I think the show as a whole is an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Alrighty. Trent, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, kind of along with Cat's sentiment there. Like that first 3 episodes, with all the twists and the setting up the gags that would go on for the rest of the series of Bench Kun, and there's this one person that makes my chest feel so tight, and setting those up for the future, like to be the ongoing bits, was really great. And at that point, I probably would have given it like an 8.5. I think as the show kind of goes off the rails and it moves away from a lot of what I enjoyed about it, it started to bump down a little bit for me. I still, at the end of the day, it still got me to laugh with almost every episode. I still was able to find a lot of the bits pretty funny. There was a lot of and the bits that they did have with the references, like referencing how much the book cost being 100,000th of the cost that it to make Shenmue, which was approximately $50 million to make that game back on the Dreamcast. I thought that was funny just because that was personally a game I grew up really enjoying playing back in the day. So when it did hit those points, I really enjoyed it. I think overall, though, with how it landed at the end, I'd probably give it closer to a 7 at the end of the day. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it wasn't anything egregious overall. So I would say, yeah, I'd stick with around a 7.
A 7. All right. Pete, what about you?
I'm basing my entire opinion on this show around my enjoyment and the comedy for the show. I really just enjoyed every episode, at least a little bit. Like I was always laughing in some aspect, and I just thought like the cast was great. The OP I thought was a mega banger. Shut up, Miles. But just a really good time. I'm gonna give the show an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10. All righty. Cool. Jay, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be as kind to the show as the others. I'm sorry. I think that this show, like, I enjoyed a lot of the comedy aspects of it. Like, the recurring jokes were good. So I guess if you're somebody who really enjoys recurring jokes, that's probably like a big plus for you. But for me, it just couldn't salvage the fact that the characters felt like they didn't really learn much from episode to episode. They didn't really like hold anybody accountable for any of the fucking like Patrick Bateman
You were right about that.
activities they were a part of. I think that I would have enjoyed it a lot more if like it would have ended like after they were all like, bruh, nah, like fuck you for trying to do this. I think that would have been an interesting way to do it, because like it feels like they're setting the guy up to be a loser, but like at the end of the day, they more or less say, yeah, you know, man, you're a piece of shit, but you do it because you care about people, and that makes all the actions and people you hurt fine. And it's like, okay, I guess. I just didn't really vibe with it. Felt like a chore to watch it past a certain point, honestly. And for that reason, I think I'm going to go ahead and give this a 5 out of 10.
Oh,
Ooh.
I honestly, that's fair.
yeah.
I'm just not a harsh scorer. So
I'm
I
usually
give you
not
props for
either,
that.
but I wanted to put my foot down this time.
You're
All right.
scolding this show like a mad father.
I think 5 is a fine score.
Yeah, it's
Jesus
not really
Christ.
that bad. It's
It's
not
not-
really that bad.
Yeah, it's not like
at
it's
all.
like even
Oh,
a 2. Like this is fucking trash.
It's
Okay.
watchable. It's just not
Yeah.
necessarily my cup of tea.
Exactly.
honestly. I'm not a huge harem guy, all things considered.
I'm talking about you putting your foot down on it.
I am putting it's more
This
for
has
me,
to stop.
because I've let you guys talk me into rating things higher. Not you guys didn't talk me into it. It's just I felt bad about rating shows poorly at points.
Yeah,
so
man,
I
that's
just
why I
like
gave
to work
Undead Unluck manga a 9, right? Because
Yeah.
like everyone was loving it, and I was like, oh, like, it was like 7 10s in a row or something, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to give this at least a 9. Shit was like a 6.
Nope, we gave it a
All right.
9, so.
That's why I gave Kaiba a 6 instead of like, I don't know, a 4. So
fair.
9 or 10.
like, yeah, I know. I hated it. Sorry. But anyways, yeah, let me wrap up quick. Yeah, I know. I enjoyed the show a lot when I first watched it. It's funny to think about that. This was like pre-pandemic too. Like weird to think that because this
That just
show
caused
felt.
the pandemic.
Yeah, maybe you never. We can't say it didn't. You know, maybe
We don't
some
know.
guy and
We
Some
should
guy
do
in-
our own research.
Yeah. So some guy in China just went to a meat market because he saw this anime or something and was hungry. I don't know. We will never know. No, I don't know. I just thought for me this show feels like I only watched it like a year ago. I feel or like during the pandemic,
Same.
right? The fact that it's 4 years old kind of surprised me when I read that earlier, like 50 minutes ago. I enjoyed the show so much, and rewatching like bits from it because I jumped around a little bit made it so enjoyable. I agree with Pete. The OP is really, really fun. It's super easy on Anime Music Quiz when we play it, so that helps it out for sure. I don't know. I thought the production of the show was pretty consistent, at least at the start as well. It didn't feel like it fell off too much animation wise, which is nice. I don't think we really talked about the art or anything. Like, it's nothing special. The girls are very like cookie cutter, but I also
there's that funny animation bit where they like hyper stylize the girls changing after like the guys are drawn like as stick figures or whatever. They're like, where did our animation budget go? Why are we drawn so poorly? And then it's just like all these like super high res fucking Violet Evergarden-esque scenes, but of them changing. So
it's pretty funny. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I think this show for me was like, I don't know, like a very low 8, but it's still an 8 at the end of the day for me. So yeah, let's do some maths here, some quick maths. Between the 6 of us, we average out to a 7.16 repeating, so a 7.17 overall, which pretty close to the Mal score of a 7.31. Jay, I think if you scored it 1 higher, we would have been right on with the Mal score, or just about. So you're going to have to live with that burden. You're going to have to carry that weight. But yeah, I guess that wraps up our discussion of Oresuki. Why don't we talk about what we nominated for our final... was it? No, it wasn't Miles Week. We did Miles Week. Oh yeah, it's Halloween. That's why these shows that we were talking about were nominated. So yeah, what won, Miles? What are we watching for our Halloween spooky episode?
Is it Halloween or is it Miles Week 2?
You have a choice.
Because first off, everything gets a legacy point. Everything was like really tight in there, except for one thing, which stood above the rest. Some
Sorry, I thought the same thing as Jay. So that's
some people really tight. Some people say that this is the greatest work of fiction ever made. That person is Hastic. We will be watching Danganronpa, the animation.
Yes.
I thought we were watching High Rise Invasion so hard.
Absolutely not.
No, that would not be continued Miles Week. I unironically think Danganronpa is like fine fucking art. People keep trying to tell me that like, no, Miles, it's not ironic. You're just reading into it. And I'm like, fuck you.
So we're watching to be very clear, we're watching Danganronpa, the animation from Studio 2013. It looks like by Studio Lurch. Okay, exciting stuff. Very spooky, I guess.
I think I'm just gonna replay the visual novel and then just see how that goes, like for the conversation. Just like try to talk to you guys, because from everything I understand, this adaptation is like actually F tier.
You say S tier or F tier?
F. Like,
oh, fuck.
Very bad. I believe that it is terrible, but we will find out. And but like, it's important to remember that an F tier adaptation of Danganronpa is better than your favorite anime. So
that is what I have heard as well. Literally just now for the first time.
People are saying this.
One person in particular
is saying this.
What you can do for the adaptation, you can compare it to the Higurashi adaptation and see which one had a better visual novel to anime adaptation. You can do that.
Look, I love Higurashi, right? But like when you're comparing a visual novel to art, right? Like true art, like something that belongs in the Louvre, like Danganronpa. I don't
25 hours of content in 13 episodes. It's going to be great.
Oh my god!
I can't wait. I'm so excited. My only regret is that we can't also watch the rest of it. Because they just mix 2 and 3 together sort of haphazardly for no reason in the next season. But I'm very excited.
This will be my first exposure to Danganronpa, like basically at all. I've just refused to touch that with like a 10-foot pole, even. You
It
know,
is
like
so fucking good. Fuck it. I'm right and everyone else is fucking wrong.
yeah. Okay, I'm excited. We'll see what we all think about Danganronpa 2 weeks from now, I guess. So yeah, why don't we talk about what we're nominating for just in general? We get to go back to normal nominations. We have 6 things to pick from, assuming we all nominate shows this week. So Miles, you obviously came ready with a show, right?
I for sure did. I am going to nominate a show that will lose, but I've been meaning to nominate, or to watch, but it'll lose, but that's okay. I'm going to nominate Sugar Apple Fairy Tale.
Oh,
Ooh, spicy.
it's Jonas season. Let's go.
Yeah, I wanted to watch it, and then like I had a kid or something, and then I haven't been able to.
Nice excuse.
So I know.
You can't play that
congrats.
card every time, Miles.
Congrats on the sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was really tight.
Oh god damn! Oh my god!
Yo,
All right.
I should
Fair
have
enough.
finished this. I didn't describe the sex.
Congrats,
That was-
Miles.
That was
Cooper has anything to say about it.
holy shit.
Jesus Christ!
Kayla had
we
a
need
C-section.
to
Okay.
delete the last like
Just
2
stop! You're digging yourself a hole, Miles.
Next
Stop
person.
it.
Next up, Kat, what are you nominating?
Hi. Yes, I came prepared like 6
Whoa.
months ago. I'm nominating something that seems like something that Pat would have nominated like 2 years ago. I'm nominating Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun.
Oh, great show.
Pete has seen so much anime that every time any of us fucking nominates anything, he's like, "Oh yeah, I like that show. Good show."
It's a
Good
good.
show.
It's a good one. It's fun.
Oh, this one. Yeah, it's done by that studio. Adoga Koba is pretty good. I like them.
Oh, I like this
I've d-
girl's design.
Yeah, I've thought about nominating this before, or at least watching this. I think like back in my glory days of just watching a shit ton of anime, I was thinking about watching it. And I never
Back
did.
in your glory days when you were, I don't know,
In
just
college.
a year older than me.
No,
Glory
in
days.
college and didn't have like responsibilities, I guess, beyond waking up and existing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. College is a lot less work than living right now. Anyways, let's go next to Trent. What are you nominating in your second episode ever? What is your nomination?
Yeah.
Or Remo
This I don't think is
2.
one that I do not want to nominate that, but this is actually one I wanted to nominate when we did the first episode of that I was on. This is one I don't think Pete has watched, according to Mal.
You want to bet?
At least, well, unless you just haven't updated it and put it in there, which you might have.
Oh, I have.
It was tight.
It was tight.
Now that all of us here are more familiar with Fate outside of Fate Zero,
Oh, okay.
now that Pat has watched UBW through Secret Santas, he can finally understand this more.
Already have it on the list.
I am going to nominate today's menu for the Emiya family.
I thought you were gonna do Ilya Prisma. I was like,
No,
Like, I-
no,
We're-
I'm not going to
we're-
nominate that twice.
I thought you were doing the bad one. What's the bad one? That has-
Apocrypha?
Apocrypha, yeah.
No, that would
No,
have been
I
me.
would never recommend that for anyone to watch.
not even my worst enemy.
I don't recommend it. I just want people to be forced to watch it.
It's
I mean,
24
Astolfo is
episodes.
It's too
long.
core anyway, so we're good.
No, Astolfo fucking
Yeah.
sucks because Astolfo likes the main character and I fucking hate the main character.
Very true.
Fucking
Very good
homophobic.
point.
Astolfo has a griffin. Your point is invalid.
whatever.
Thankfully, none of those bad aspects or nothing related to Apocrypha is in today's menu for Remiya family because it follows the main Stay Night cast and it puts them in a fun slice of life cooking anime envelope that is easy to digest, and it's one of the baits or outside of the Stay Night universe shows that is actually still animated by Ufotable. It's not handed off to A1 or another studio. Ufotable's got their hands in it, and I think it's a fun way to see how they take on slice of life in their modern adaptation, in their modern animation.
Is that the one where that you watch Saber in a lion suit? Is that
that
Carnival Phantasm.
Phantasm.
yeah, she's in Carnival
Oh.
Phantasm and some of the other older stuff. I think they might do a gag like that at some point. But it is fun. It is
You lost
relaxing.
me. I'm sorry.
It does have Saber though, so
Okay.
you at least do get her in some way.
I personally am shocked that a Fate property would have Saber in it. But thank you. And I know that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it is weird how they never went back to that well, huh?
Yeah, weird, right? Like one of the most popular characters in anime to only use her
Mhm.
once. It makes no sense. Like,
It's
why'd they do that?
crazy.
Pete, what is your nomination?
This is a show that I have nominated in the past before. It is a franchise that I've been wanting to get into for quite a while. It is very popular. It is
Oh, no.
Natsumi's Book of Friends.
No.
I would say it's even legendary at this point. A
Oh, Chris
franchise that has outsold
Oh, okay.
One Piece in a given year. I am nominating Uma Musume Pretty Derby Season 1.
Yep.
I'm down with that.
Honestly, I'm pretty psyched that Sugar Apple Fairy Tale might get to win.
I was about to say, yeah, Pete, do you like losing? Is that? I don't know.
You never know. You never know until you try.
Never know. Yeah,
I think it has, like, a legacy
tried.
point.
You've tried before. If I'd have a legacy point for what it was nominated with 3 other shows.
Hey, I'm saying I did this with Link Click and it ended up being a banger, so I'm just saying.
God, are you gonna link click this?
I mean, if you don't want me to, you should just vote for it.
No, that's the same thing.
We do not negotiate with terrorists.
Well,
Yeah, seriously.
Well-
No.
See you in 2 weeks when I nominate Uma Musume Pretty Derby Season 1 again.
Emmy
Well,
has 2 legacy points though, so that's worth noting.
It's nice to have less competition. But all right, sweet. Jay, what have you got?
I'm going to nominate the greatest CGI anime movie of all time. I'm nominating Lupin the Third, the first.
Oh, is that the one where
Ooh.
he throws his hat down the thing and then he tries to follow it by through the lasers?
I think so. Yeah.
I saw that come up on my timeline recently, and it was pretty cool. That's actually a spicy one. I like that.
Oh, this looks like it's done by freaking Pixar. That's neat.
Yeah, exactly.
It is
Cool.
probably the greatest 3D animation I've ever seen. I haven't watched the movie. I just mean from the trailers and stuff.
Hmm.
Maybe Arcane's a little bit better, actually. I don't know.
Arcane's very good.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it-
fucking incredible.
I know.
This is also fully CGI, whereas Arcane has 2D animation mixed in, though. So I'll give it to this.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And Pat?
Yeah. Lastly, I'm going to nominate a show that we had a great discussion about the last time we talked about it, and that is I'm nominating Link Click Season 2 because I think that would be a lot of fun to talk about, and I want to watch it. So you guys better vote for it so that I can watch it.
I literally just reviewed it. Like 2
Yeah,
weeks
there's
ago.
Well, you did.
I
The
know.
rest of us-
It's my
Yeah.
podcast.
Fortunately,
Well-
you are only 1 vote.
Unless
Yeah, unless you somehow fix the votes between
you caught me.
Miles and
I've been counting your votes as half the entire time, Pete.
you
I accept
Monster.
Cash App and Venmo.
Yeah. Well, our Venmos are public, just saying. So yeah, sweet. All right, well, that wraps up Anime Club. Pete, why don't you close this out?
Yes, and if you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you are watching and or listening to us on. Next week is the fall first impressions are going to be going over some new shows that are worth checking out, not worth checking out, that type of jazz. Otherwise, if you're here for Watch Club, in 2 weeks we will be reviewing the first season of the Danganronpa anime. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Peace!
Bye bye!